Electrocast.
Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Western demands.
Now, this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you.
I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or whatever movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up? It's Halloween time at Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host, Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today, we're talking a movie from 2004, Bram Stoker Award winner for Best Screenplay, Shaun of the Dead.
Was that a British accent?
Shaun of the Dead.
Wait, 2004. Are you suggesting that this is the 20th anniversary of Shaun of the Dead?
What? Happy anniversary, Shaun of the Dead. I finally got around to watching you.
Man. And this kicked off the genre, at least in the UK, of the rom-zom-com.
Rom-zom-com. That's pretty good.
I didn't make it up. I guess nowadays we're no stranger to zombie movies from the UK. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland having done 28 Days Later just a couple of years before.
How much do we need to know about British zombie movies and or Dawn of the Dead in order to appreciate Shaun of the Dead?
Well, we discussed Night of the Living Dead, our review somewhere at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. But this is based on Dawn of the Dead, and subsequently George Romero, legendary zombie creator, in the modern iteration, did Day of the Dead. And Dawn of the Dead, it had humorous elements and like political commentary context. It took place largely in a shopping mall, and humans shuffling through the mall are like zombies anyway. And that's where Shaun of the Dead takes its main inspiration, obviously, and also its name.
So Shaun of the Dead is a parody of a parody?
I wouldn't say that Shaun of the Dead is a parody. It's a fun comedy zombie movie as opposed to making fun of something that they undoubtedly love.
I have to say, I enjoyed the first half, or the pre-apocalypse, just as much as I did the zombie adventure.
Yeah?
In fact, I might have enjoyed it more. Not to say that I didn't enjoy the zombie adventure within Shaun of the Dead, but this idea that our main character is so daft, is that the British word?
Sure.
That he doesn't even realize that the zombie apocalypse is unfolding around him. Such a brilliant concept.
Yeah, and in that way it feels unique, right? It's stylish in kind of a slacker, yawning kind of way, but there's a lot of stuff happening in the background that Shaun fails to see entirely, and it's put upon us to see. It's important that we understand what's going on, even if Shaun doesn't. And so
right.
From a movie-making perspective, all that stuff is really important. It's not like nothing is happening.
We understand that he's slipping on a puddle of blood, even though we don't explicitly see it.
Right.
And even though he has no idea, he's not cognizant whatsoever.
Doesn't so much as look down.
Doesn't look down, doesn't notice the bloody handprints on the refrigerator door. I'm not sure exactly why he's examining the can of Coke, because I think by, 29, he knows what a can of Coke looks like, but whatever.
No, aspartame.
He was too much sugar, and then he went for the Diet Coke.
Yep.
The newscasters had a very specific word for the zombies. I think it was shambolic.
Yeah.
Is that even a word?
Sure. I mean, we're making up all kinds of stuff in Shaun of the Dead. We're not really too interested any more than Shaun is in the lore of how it came to happen. We just associate the zombies with Romero and with all this new stuff, and so we don't need to create our own backstory or whatever.
So was this Simon Pegg's brainchild? Get it? Brainchild?
Technically speaking, yes, because he worked on Spaced, a TV show with Edgar Wright, and said to him, there was an episode of Spaced featuring zombies and some meth or speed, where he kind of hallucinated that he was seeing zombies or dreamt about it, and said on the way to a spaced event to Edgar Wright, we should make a movie about that. So I guess he had the original idea. As to who wrote the spaced episode, I'm not sure, but they embraced it and tried for a long time, and Edgar Wright turned down work because they were so dedicated to this project.
Edgar Wright, who went on to direct Baby Driver.
Baby Driver is maybe his most notable original work, and this is like one of the sad stories of Hollywood, that he was all on board. Ant-Man was his baby and developed it for a long time, and then it just never happened. Creative differences and etc., but was going to make his stamp on the Marvel Universe. People are still bitter about Edgar Wright's Ant-Man. It's like Nicolas Cage's Superman up in here. But in thinking about it, doesn't Simon Pegg look a little bit like an Ant-Man? Like, wouldn't he be a good Ant-Man?
What?
And later for...
What does that mean?
I don't know. He's got like an insectoid. He looks kind of like a grasshopper, like in regular life. He would. I think would have made a good Ant-Man. Of course, we're talking about a human in a superhero costume and mask or whatever. I can see the stamp of Edgar Wright when they do the swooshy editing thing and the flashbacks and clever quippy stuff in sort of flashy editing. I can see that in the current Ant-Man. Maybe they were trying to pay homage to him. But Shaun of the Dead, this is what makes it stand out, I think, is the uniqueness of that sort of style. It felt like a British Clerks goes zombies kind of thing, where they're all slackers and just normal people appealing to slackers and normal people for a zombie movie who want to see themselves on screen. To answer your question, would I have wanted to see it all about Ant-Man? I don't care. Shaun of the Dead is a curiosity, an anomaly to me that I watch and I'm like, this exists. And there are people all over the place who say, and I quote, this is my favorite movie of all the movies in the history of movies, over 100, like probably 120 years at this point, maybe more. My favorite movie, that's not me, bruh.
Brian was aghast, like appalled, like, what? You've never seen Shaun of the Dead? And he said that it's the best comedy. But the last time he said that, he said it about Hear No Evil, See No Evil from 1989 with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. And let me tell you, that movie is unwatchable. So I was very skeptical going into Shaun of the Dead.
Is it also unlistenable?
Oh, wow. Well, I was almost as good as my brain's joke. And he was like, when are you going to watch it? I was like, I don't know, maybe around 9 o'clock. And he's like, all right. And he kind of shambles upstairs.
Shambles. Was he shambolic?
He was very shambolic in his shambling, but he loves this movie. And, you know, anything that you love and Brian loves, I always face with like a grim resistance. And so I was like, I'm not going to laugh once. And I kind of didn't.
I laughed once for sure, but this is a movie very time and place, I think. I mean, it came over here around the same time. It's not like it languished, but it always makes me think of Love Actually, which actually shares a few stars. Bill Nighy in particular, and Martin Freeman is in this movie. Bilbo's in the background. Yeah. He's one of the friends when they meet in passing, and they're all like the same representation of each other when they pass in the alleyway. It's like the other Shaun group. Yeah. But that's I think,
so funny.
I think released the previous year in the UK and was such a hit that they were like, oh, let's bring it to America. So I think it's a 2001 movie, 2002 for us. But they all look and sound exactly the same. Like the styles and everything. Bill Nighy looks exactly the same. And so it feels like a movie of that era. And so I'm a little bit removed from it watching now. I think I've seen this movie. This is the third time I've seen it. But the first time for Kelly Ray, and I was a little bit concerned because let me tell you, like she has an issue with the gore and stuff. And Shaun of the Dead is 3 times as gory as I remember it. It's okay because it's funny, right? And maybe a little gore, but it's in a funny way. But I did laugh when the dude got every inch of his entrails removed and they were juggling them and stuff, then I couldn't help but laugh. But as a comedy, I feel like I was a little bit too far removed to be chuckling the whole time.
I was really ready for David to have his entrails ripped out. And so that was very satisfying, despite it being incredibly gory. Definitely the most gory scene. I mean, don't they rip off his legs, too, and then begin beating the zombies off with them?
Yeah, well, take it easy. But yes, they do. She does hit the zombies with David's leg and charge out wielding one of his legs, hoping to save him. I think he's gone.
Yep, Di had accepted long ago David's mediocre love and was willing to die for it. That was just her MO.
And so this movie definitely gets emotional at points. I wouldn't say that was probably Di's most emotional moment, but not exactly in the right place. Like, she was expending effort in the wrong direction in trying to save David, right? But I think you'll be gratified to know that there was a DVD extra, an animated one, that explains what happens to Di. Are you aware of this at all?
No.
So she goes out wielding the leg, breaks through, climbs a tree, and is swarmed by zombies, and then falls asleep or passes out. And she wakes up and she's confused. It's like dead silent, and there's no zombies around, but she's too afraid to climb down. So she survives for a long time, eating David's leg until it's time to be rescued, and apparently survives in that way. I guess when they tore his leg off, they didn't infect the blood in his leg, or he wasn't infected yet. And so good times and happy ending for Di.
Wow, like all medieval time style, or where do they sell the turkey legs in Disneyland?
Those turkey legs, remarkably salty, like way saltier than they should be.
They always look great.
Yeah, they're supposed to. Disney does their best to make stuff look good. Sometimes it's too salty or too sweet.
Do they pump out the turkey leg aroma into Adventureland?
I don't think so. I never got that vibe. But then again, turkey kind of smells and tastes like almost nothing. I don't understand the devotee. Maybe that's why you have to brine it for like 6 months. It's the only way to make turkey good, I think.
Yeah, I still have it on the wish list to try the deep fried Thanksgiving turkey.
To deep fry a turkey, or are you talking about something Disney related?
Nope, to deep fry a turkey.
Okay. Can I recommend that you buy that from a shop who knows what they're doing? Because that is like one of the leading causes of fire on Thanksgiving.
Deep frying turkeys?
Oh, man. There's a whole YouTube series of videos.
Wow.
Oh, it's really bad.
I don't have a deep fryer. I don't think I would attempt it. So, a low-budget movie, according to IMDb, an estimated $4 million. Where do you think they spent their money? Because it certainly wasn't in the zombie makeup. I thought it was actually quite a good idea that the telltale sign of zombieism is just the filmy, milky eyes.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to do all of the, rotting flesh and stuff like that. Although I guess the apocalypse is so fresh, everybody's still fresh and not rotten. Because later, Ed is rotten when he's chained up in the shed, right?
Well, that was, 6 months later?
So it would make sense that in the beginning, everyone is still fresh and eventually they do decompose.
So to answer your question, where did the money go? Fake blood, probably, definitely contact lenses. And so they put out on the Spaced, that show that Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright did, they put out a casting call on the Spaced website so fans of that show could show up and be zombies. And I don't imagine they paid those people, if anything, very much at all. But I'm guessing they had to have like meat pies or pizza or something, and probably beer on hand for the generous extra crew, generous with their time. So maybe the budget went into beer.
Copy credit meals?
Yeah.
Keep your contact lenses for Halloween?
And this is why I'm saying that it's a loving homage rather than a parody, because I think this was all hands on board. There's a lot of people show up in this movie from British film and TV, from The Office, which was popular at the time, burgeoning actor, star Martin Freeman, and the fans showed up and were all eager to get this movie made, and they weren't sure that it was going to make any money. Certainly weren't anticipating the cult classic status and worldwide acclaim and reception from people like George A. Romero and Stephen King, who all praised the movie.
This is Simon Pegg's movie, I consider it. And definitely Sean is our main character. He goes from, loser, slacker, electronic salesman to arguably humanity's, as far as we're concerned, salvation. That being said, and though his performance is great and he's got a pitch perfect moment that I want to talk about, I kind of think that Ed steals the show here.
Ed, you mean Nick Frost, who had never acted before this movie?
Wow.
I mean, he's super lovable.
So lovable. and hateable at the exact same time.
Well, are you talking about you hated him or the characters all took issue with Ed because of his slackedness?
Both, but there were definitely moments where I was like, ew, Ed, and found him detestable, but he was so irresistibly lovable. And he has, that loyalty to Shaun, to Barbara, and to friendship that you kind of just can't help but love.
Yeah, you can't just hate on a dude just to hate. Was it the farting, the 2 or 3 farting episodes, the 2 gay references, or the single N-word? Were any of those Ed's detestable moments?
Those definitely top the list. I definitely saw the final fart coming. Gay, to call someone gay in lieu of calling them lame or stupid, definitely outmoded. All the car shenanigans when he uses the Ed word were just like kind of dumb.
Oh man, but you still found him lovable.
I mean, he is, interestingly, despite the zombie apocalypse going on around them, the main source of tension between the characters. And he handles that, and he lets that, slide right off of him in such a funny, kind of lovable, totally unaware way. I know he's not unaware, he just doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, he cares only about certain things, and mostly he draws ire from people because they don't perceive him as holding up his end of the deal on things like rent or cleaning up or anything like that. But he definitely cares. Did you see how dedicated? Did you get the reference? But he said, "We're coming to get you, Barbara."
Oh, I did not get that. That's a Night of the Living Dead reference.
Right. And so Barbara was Shaun's mom, and Ed cared about her so much, and they both care. She's the amazing Penelope Wilton who's been around, who was actually married also to Bill Nye from Love Actually. They were married in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. But Ed is all about helping Shaun save his mom. They're both crying real tears when they have to kill Barbara, which is the emotional centerpiece of this movie. If it ever gets real, it's centered around Barbara's death. And I'd say Ed really cares.
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Telusma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Telusma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast.
He does. They both do, and it's so sweet. And you can see how their friendship can survive Shaun basically turning on Ed for a moment.
Yeah, it's like family. Even though you care about them and everything's fine, every once in a while you got to yell at them.
Yeah, and he wasn't quite as mean about it as the flatmate or David, who both take their turns.
Right, and get their comeuppance. I guess Ed included in a way. Although the gag is that Ed his position doesn't change much between life and death.
He was kind of like a zombie in life.
Yeah, well, they all were, Shaun in particular, but he's still playing video games all day, and I'm sure making, albeit different, horrible stinks.
Yeah, just kind of like a constant gaseous decomposition stink.
Yep.
And that is the proper expected screenplay format, right? The movie ends where it begins, except everything has changed. Shaun has now discovered something about himself and and how capable he is. He and Liz apparently have repaired their relationship. And maybe what was she on about? She wanted him to do something. She wanted him to
just grow up and be responsible.
What does she say? She's like, I gotta make a go of it and blah, blah, blah. And I can't just be there at the Winchester. And he was like, what do you mean gotta make a go of it? And that's to show how clueless he was about what it was that she actually needed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a British colloquialism or whatever, but also we very early realized that the subtitles for this movie for us were indispensable. Because I thought, it's not that bad, but it was kind of bad. They were British kids saying British things that I was like, wait, what? So it helped. I don't know exactly what she said.
So it's Halloween season at Or Whatever Movies. We've done 4 years of this. Why did we take so long to get to Shaun of the Dead? And why did you suggest we discuss Shaun of the Dead this year?
There are 3 reasons, I think. The reason we avoided it is because neither one of us are particularly close to this movie. It's more of a Brian-style movie. The Goose loves this movie. And I've seen it a few times, but I didn't, sure, we'll get around to it eventually. That's reason number 1. Number 2, 20th anniversary, and everybody's talking about Shaun of the Dead. And it seems like a lot of this season revolves around anniversaries and celebrating horror movies of the past. So it seemed like a worthy inclusion because people love this movie. Thirdly, last year we covered some doozies and less of the more fun, embraceable classics. I went hardcore horror for Halloween, which I tend to do, and I'm finding now it's more about Hocus Pocus and Shaun of the Dead and stuff that people like to celebrate Halloween. Very few people are on board with my brand of Halloween, and so I figured this would be slightly lighter, more accessible fare.
What is your Halloween fare? Like hardcore?
Yeah, I mean, last year we did The Shining and we did Evil Dead Rise and heavier movies. I thought we were taking it easy with movies like The Boogeyman, which is PG-13, and The Last Voyage of the Demeter, but they're still more horror than Shaun of the Dead, arguably. And I think if you're going to sum up a zombie movie, a British zombie movie celebrating its 20th anniversary, of all the words you could use as a single word description, maybe fun is the one for this one. And that's why I chose it.
Aw. I have to say, too, I'm a little suspicious of the word fun. It's a very flexible term. Like this idea of fun size, speaking of Halloween, is just so misleading. I mean, why is it more fun just because the candy bar is smaller? Is it because they don't want to say small size?
They're like, you're going to eat this and you're going to have fun while doing it. That's our excuse for making it small and more expensive for like a smaller size or whatever. We're being told it's fun.
We took the girls to a carnival because for some reason I just love jank carnivals, like traveling ones and stuff. And there was a fun house called Crystal Lils that was like a, as Paloma pointed out, it looked like the Beauty of the Beast story painted on the outside, except it was all Western themed. But it wasn't a fun house. It was just a janky trailer with some mirrors and a slide. This term, it's like interesting. You just use it willy-nilly for whatever your purpose is. Fun? Shaun of the Dead is fun?
Well, I think it would have been an excellent Halloween movie had I cared. Because it's accessible, it's kind of okay to talk through it because you don't know what they're saying half of the time. You don't have to pay close attention. You're not filled with dread. It's probable that the sneak wouldn't go home and be filled and experience a night of terror after watching Shaun of the Dead. But also, this is a genre that has now become, familiar in our movie watching experience in American life, where this kind of lighter fare that's just quirky and funny and weird. We talked about Beetlejuice, which is a certain type of movie that kind of broadly appeals. Is it action? Not maybe Shaun of the Dead is more action. There's some drama in there when Barbara dies. Comedy for sure, and then horror. It's what are we calling it? Not an amalgamation, but it's like for however many quadrants there are for appeal to audiences. There are movies that try to hit every single one of them. The idea being that it's fun for the whole family. Fun? Yes, but that's not the same as funny, which I'm not sure that people said like it's gut-bustingly hilarious. And I'm like, really? Shaun of the Dead? Did we watch the same movie? But I've never been particularly receptive to that genre. It's like, it's hysterical. That movie's hilarious. And I feel like that kind of sets me up for my viewing experience where I'm like, I laughed when they took like the garden hose of guts out of David's belly, and that's kind of it. Not exactly my genre.
I mean, British humor is dry. It's known to be dry. It's not supposed to be gut-busting. You're not supposed to show your terrible European teeth when you laugh.
Oh, that's it.
At a British comedy.
Gut-busting fun. That should be the tagline for this movie.
But it is funny in its own way. I think maybe a better description is this is a movie that doesn't take itself seriously. The moment it does, it has to turn on its heels and remind us that it doesn't, which is reflected in my favorite moment, which I also believe is Simon Pegg's best performance moment in Shaun of the Dead. It's when he quotes the Guinness beer mat or whatever about humans and cooperation, and you're like, oh wow, he's like a leader and stuff. And then she's like and then he has that great little moment with Liz, which is also so telling about their relationship. Definitely the best moment, the closest I got to a laugh, and I think reflective of this movie's inability, to its credit, to take itself seriously.
Yeah, but there's no part of Shaun of the Dead. There's no, as a whole, you can't say that this movie was boring.
No, absolutely not.
Okay, because
No.
it seemed like you were, I mean, I get it. To pick like a little bit at the movie that people adore, this cult classic, typically cult classics to me read as kind of niche. And that's what makes it a cult classic as opposed to a full-blown classic for all time. And I'm not in the particular niche of Shaun of the Dead. I can appreciate a lot of things about it, but there were dumb things, even in the scope of a comedy, that annoy me. The records gag was dumb. They spent time trying to kill those zombies by throwing LPs at them. Like, that wouldn't even hurt extras. I'm pretty sure they didn't even need stunt people for that. I think the records were digital, right? They were CG records, but you could have thrown regular records at normal people and they wouldn't have gotten hurt. The excessive flowers gag was dumb. Killing the mob-connected Winchester guy for 5 minutes with the pool cues, ineffectively battering him.
I was just going to say that. But never hitting him on the face because he's an actor. Just hitting him over and over again on the pads hidden under his clothes.
Right, and pulling their punches a little bit. So there were dumb elements or whatever, but there was a lot to, I can see why people love it. It's just not exactly my kind of movie. Dry British humor maybe, but this movie was anything but dry. They were coated in blood and sweat the whole time.
Yuck, yuck, yuck.
Yeah, yuck, yuck, yuck indeed. I don't know if dogs can really look up. I'm not really sure.
What does that even mean?
They say,
why can't they look up?
Exactly. Why would anybody choose to believe steadfastly that dogs can't look up? It's the dumbest thing ever. And that's kind of the dumbest thing. But there were also some things that were, I guess, there's a cult classic, it demands reviewing, which is a lot of my criteria for what makes a good movie. Remember the guy, they were all suspicious and they were doing the Simon and Garfunkel America thing where they look around and they create a backstory for everyone around them. The guy is connected, is obviously through the mob, and all that stuff. Remember the guy with the red shoes, the gigolo guy, the smoking guy?
No.
And they said he's always surrounded by women. He's like all smoking and creepy looking.
Oh, yeah.
And when we see him later, we identify him by his red shoes and he's surrounded by women being eaten. Little stuff like that I grasped. I'm sure there's 1,000 more things. I'm sure there's references to other British comedies, not just Romero and The Office. And I'm sure all that stuff's in there, just not stuff that I grasped, having only seen this a couple of times.
And is that what makes a movie a cult classic? Is it that it keeps on giving? The more it reveals to you, the attention to detail that the filmmakers put into the film? Or is it just a catch-all term for a low-budget film that doesn't have anything else going for it, except that people feel that somehow it's theirs? The sense of ownership that comes with, quote-unquote, discovering a movie that, doesn't have big stars or a whole bunch of promotion behind it.
Yeah, I think you hit the zombie square on the head. It is both intricacy and rewatchability and stuff that's fun. You see how much care they put into it. And also people, I love it because I see me on screen and that's what I want to see and that's fun. To be able to, this is your aesthetic. This movie is people's groove.
So is your official rating fun?
My official rating is fun, for sure. This would be a great Cinespia movie in the cemetery to watch here in Hollywood. Or one of those party kind of movies, and a Halloween party movie would have been good, but I'm not sure that I would have bought tickets for that like I did for The Shining, because I'm much more scary Halloween and, dare I say, cerebral Halloween. I don't know, man. But I had fun watching Shaun of the Dead. We smirked and then went back to playing on our phones afterwards.
So you got an official fun from Wes and a good from Iris, and that's our discussion on Shaun of the Dead from 2004. Happy 20-year anniversary, Shaun of the Dead. Thank you for listening to this discussion. We hope that you check out our other Halloween movies this year at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. 818-835-0473 or whatevermovies@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hi everyone, I'm Geraldine Glass, a leader in the field of music as medicine, and I'm excited to share with you my newest release of healing sound, Pentatonic Visions, with Chris Scholler and Electrocast Records. Immerse yourself in ethereal realms where the harmonies of nature, tribal rhythms, and soundscapes blend with the crystal singing bowls. It's out now, streaming on all platforms.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Exposed, where we dive into the stories of visionary entrepreneurs revolutionizing the workforce. Our ongoing mission is to showcase founders and creators doing amazing things in business and beyond. If you're a founder, CEO, tech enthusiast, or someone generally interested in startup land, join me, Adam Levinter, as I dive into what makes an entrepreneur an entrepreneur. Find us wherever you get your podcasts.
Electrocast.